The Vault of Lost Relics was a graveyard of failed wonders, a silent museum of abandoned dreams, and at its heart stood the armor, an ancient war-forged relic that had rejected every alien species in the known galaxy. The armor was alive, not in the sense of writhing tentacles or churning biomass, but something deeper, intelligent. It was said to have once belonged to the greatest warrior of a forgotten empire, forged from exotic metals unknown to modern science, fused with a mind of its own. But no one could wield it. No alien, no synthetic, no machine could make it work. It had rejected every single one. Until it met a human. Jace Carter wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. Hell, he wasn't even supposed to be here. A glorified scavenger. Jace had spent most of his life sifting through wreckage and ruins across the outer fringe of the Orion Spur, salvaging whatever old tech the galaxy's warring factions hadn't stripped bare. He had seen his fair share of cursed artifacts, broken war machines, and abandoned superweapons, but nothing had ever given him that gut-punch feeling of something staring back at him. Until he laid eyes on the armor. Jace had been hired for a simple job: break into a high-security facility on the isolated planet of Xiphos IV, recover something valuable, and get the hell out before anyone noticed. His employer, an eccentric T-Karen merchant named Vexel Ziv, had promised him a payout worth 3 lifetimes, just to retrieve an unclaimed piece of history. Vexel hadn't told him it was a sentient death suit. "Jace, you need to get out of there. Now." His comlink crackled with the urgent whisper of his partner, Kira Vasquez. She was his getaway pilot, his tactical advisor, and, most importantly, the one who kept him from doing incredibly stupid things. Jace ignored her. His gloved hand hovered over the armor's dark plating. It was beautiful, not in the polished, pristine way of military-grade exosuits, but old, primal, lethal. The surface was a deep obsidian with veins of glowing silver, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Then it moved. A subtle shift. A twitch in the metal, like a beast stirring in its slumber. Jace froze. Every instinct screamed at him to step back, to get the hell out before whatever ancient intelligence inside decided to wake up. But his hand had other ideas. Before he even realized what he was doing, his fingers brushed against the armor's chest plate. A jolt of electricity shot up his arm. Not pain, not shock, recognition. The air around him crackled. The walls of the vault shuddered. The armor responded. Kira's voice exploded in his earpiece. "Jace, what's happening?" "I'm reading massive energy fluctuations." He managed, watching in stunned horror as the armor moved toward him, individual plates shifting and aligning with a mind of their own. "I think I broke something." A low, resonant voice rumbled through the chamber. Not mechanical. Not alien. Accepted. Jace barely had time to process the words before the armor lunged at him. It didn't attack. It claimed him. The plates snapped into place around his body, a seamless merging of metal and flesh. His breath hitched as he felt something wrap around his spine, an overwhelming presence pushing into his thoughts. Then, suddenly, silence. For a long moment, there was nothing but the distant hum of power surging through the vault. Jace exhaled sharply. "Kara?" Static. Then, "Jace, what the hell did you do?" The moment she spoke, the doors slammed open. Armed mercenaries poured into the vault, weapons raised, visors gleaming under the dim blue lights. Shit. Jace hadn't just tripped an alarm. He'd awakened something the galaxy had spent centuries trying to forget. The lead merc, a hulking reptilian, bared his fanged teeth. "Drop the armor, human. Now." Jace raised his hands instinctively. Except he couldn't feel his hands anymore. In their place were gauntlets, sleek, armored, humming with untapped power. The entire suit had fused to his body, responding to his every thought, every impulse. He had become the armor. The mercenaries didn't wait for an answer. They opened fire. The first shot never landed. Before Jace could even react, the armor moved on its own. His arms shot up in a defensive cross, and a translucent energy shield flared to life, absorbing the impact. The plasma bolts splashed against it like raindrops on a window. Jace barely had time to register what was happening before the armor counterattacked. His body blurred forward, moving with inhuman speed. He felt his own muscles responding, stronger, faster, sharper than they had ever been. He didn't know how to fight. The armor did. With a mere flick of his wrist, a pulse of kinetic force detonated outward, sending the nearest mercenary flying into the opposite wall. Another turned his rifle toward Jace, but before he could fire, Jace's own hand moved on its own, fingers snapping into a clawed grip. A lance of pure energy erupted from his palm, piercing through the merc's chest plate. Jace stared. What the hell did I just do? The remaining mercs hesitated. They were afraid. Not of him, of the armor. His bonded with it? One of them barked in a panic. Pull back. Now! But it was too late. The armor wouldn't let them escape. Jace wasn't in control anymore. Something else was. The armor surged forward, propelling him with inhuman speed. He weaved through the remaining mercenaries like a ghost, untouchable, the suit guiding every movement with terrifying efficiency. A punch sent one sprawling. A spinning kick shattered another's visor. Within seconds, they were all down. Jace stumbled back, his breath ragged, his hands shaking. The suit retracted slightly, loosening its hold on him. He could feel the presence inside it, watching, waiting, testing him. Jace, are you okay? What's happening in there? Kira's frantic voice crackled back to life in his ear. Jace swallowed hard. How the hell was he supposed to explain this? He took a deep breath, stepping over the unconscious mercenaries. The armor, whatever it was, had chosen him. And that meant every power-hungry faction in the galaxy was about to come looking for him. Yeah, he muttered, flexing his fingers as the armor pulsed around him. I think I just got promoted. Jace barely had time to breathe before the alarms blared. The mercenaries might have been down, but the facility itself wasn't done with him. The walls hissed as hidden turrets emerged from the ceiling, red targeting beams locking onto him. Kira, I've got a problem, he snapped, bolting toward the nearest exit. His partner's voice crackled through his earpiece. Just one, because I count at least a dozen heat signatures converging on your location. What did you do? Jace didn't have time for an explanation. The turrets whined, priming their shots. Before he could think, the armor reacted. A shimmering energy barrier flickered to life around him just as the first rounds fired. Plasma bolts ricocheted off, the shield absorbing the brunt of the impact. The suit wasn't just protecting him, it was learning. Jace spotted a narrow corridor up ahead. He didn't know where it led, but anywhere was better than standing in a kill box. Move. He wasn't sure if it was his thought or the armor's, but the suit obeyed. His legs propelled forward, faster than humanly possible, closing the distance in seconds. A hiss behind him. Something big was coming. Jace didn't look back. He just ran. The corridor twisted in sharp angles, forcing him to push his newfound agility to its limit. The armor responded effortlessly, making every turn feel fluid, every stride powerful. He felt like he was flying. Then, the walls shifted. A massive blast door slid down ahead, blocking his escape. No, no, no. The armor adjusted. Jace didn't know how he knew, but his instincts screamed at him to jump. He obeyed. The armor's thrusters flared to life, launching him into the air. He twisted mid-flight, narrowly clearing the barrier, landing in a low crouch on the other side. Jace exhaled sharply, rising to his feet. Kira, I need an evac. Now. No can do. Hot shot. The entire facility's on lockdown. Something about a classified security breach. Gee, I wonder whose fault that is. Jace gritted his teeth. The armor had chosen him, but whatever ancient security system still governed this place wasn't about to let him just walk out with it. He needed a new plan. Before he could come up with one, a deep, mechanical growl echoed through the corridor. Jace turned slowly. A war beast loomed at the other end, a six-legged, cybernetic nightmare, its armored body bristling with plasma emitters. Glowing red optics scanned the corridor, locking onto him. It wasn't here to arrest him. It was here to eliminate him. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Jace took a step back, hands flexing at his sides. The armor responded, power surging through his limbs, preparing for a fight. The war beast lunged. Jace dodged instinctively, rolling aside as a plasma bolt vaporized the spot where he'd been standing. The heat scorched his cheek. Too close. The beast pivoted, its metal claws tearing into the floor as it came at him again. Jace moved without thinking. The armor reacted faster than his mind, twisting his body into a counterattack. His right arm snapped forward. A pulse of raw kinetic energy exploded from his palm. The blast hit the warbeast square in the chest. It barely staggered. Jace's eyes widened. "Oh, that's not good." The beast retaliated, slashing with a razor-sharp talon. Jace barely managed to twist away, but the tip grazed his shoulder, sending a jolt of searing pain through his body. The armor's voice rumbled in his mind, analyzing threat, compensating. Jace didn't have time to question what that meant. His body moved again, this time without hesitation. The armor shifted, his right gauntlet morphing, a blade extending from his forearm. The beast lunged. Jace met it head-on. His newfound blade pierced through its chest plating. The creature shuddered, its optics flickering violently as sparks erupted from its core. Then, with a final mechanical whimper, it collapsed. Jace exhaled sharply, wrenching his blade free. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the raw power coursing through him. The armor had adapted. It had just upgraded itself in real time. And Jace wasn't sure if that should terrify him or not. His comm crackled. "Jace, you still alive?" He wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Barely." "Good. Because you've got another problem. A big one." Jace winced. "Bigger than a robotic murder dog." "Much bigger. That vault you raided? Turns out it wasn't just any relic storage." Jace felt a pit form in his stomach. "Oh, I'm not gonna like this, am I?" "You just woke up a relic from the old war, and every major power in the galaxy just took notice." Jace froze. He knew the legends, the ancient conflict that had wiped out civilizations, the technology so advanced it had been locked away for fear of ever being used again. The armor wasn't just a relic, it was a weapon of mass destruction. And now, every greedy, power-hungry faction in the galaxy was coming for him. Jace swallowed hard. "Kira, tell me you've got a way out of this." Her silence spoke volumes. Then, finally, "Get to the rooftop. I'll do the rest." Jace didn't ask questions. He just ran. The facility was already in chaos. Security teams swarmed through the halls, sirens blaring. Jace moved like a ghost, the armor bending light around him in brief moments of invisibility, slipping past patrols before they even knew he was there. He reached a service elevator, jamming the controls. The doors slid open, and he stepped inside. As it ascended, he flexed his fingers, staring at the gauntlets. The armor had bonded to him. It had chosen him. Why? Before he could dwell on it, the elevator dinged. The doors opened, and waiting for him on the rooftop was a warship. Not Kira's. Something worse. A sleek, black cruiser hovered above the landing pad, its hull adorned with the sigil of the Zenith Dominion, one of the most ruthless military factions in the galaxy. A squad of heavily armored soldiers stood in formation, their rifles aimed at him. And at the center of them all stood a figure Jace recognized instantly. General Tarsus Vren. A warlord. A conqueror. A man who had personally leveled entire planets in his quest for power. Vren smiled. Well, the lost armor has finally found a host." Jace's jaw tightened. "Yeah, sorry to disappoint, but I'm not in the mood to be recruited." Vren chuckled. "Oh, you misunderstand. I'm not here to recruit you." The soldiers' rifles hummed, priming to fire. "I'm here to take what's mine." Jace felt the armor tighten around him. It wasn't just his fight anymore. It was theirs. And they weren't going down without a fight. The moment General Tarsus Vren gave the order, the rooftop erupted into chaos. Plasma fire blazed through the air, streaks of red and blue energy screaming toward Jace. His body reacted instantly, the armor moving before his mind could even process the danger. A shield flared to life, crackling with raw energy. The first wave of blasts ricocheted off, splintering into the surrounding rooftop. Jace didn't wait. His legs pushed off the ground, launching him forward like a missile. The first Zenith soldier never stood a chance. Jace's fist, encased in unbreakable alloy, slammed into the man's chest. A shockwave exploded outward, sending the soldier hurtling off the roof like a rag doll. The rest reacted fast. Too fast. Jace barely managed to twist aside as another volley narrowly missed his head. He hit the ground in a low roll, sliding into cover behind a maintenance terminal. His mind raced. 12 soldiers, all armored, all well-trained. And then there's Vren. The general stood behind them, calm, confident, watching like a predator letting his prey struggle before delivering the killing blow. Jace gritted his teeth. Not today, bastard. A pulse of information flooded his mind. The armor wasn't just giving him strength. It was strategizing, analyzing weaknesses, calculating probabilities. For the first time in his life, Jace felt like he was 10 steps ahead. He moved. The armor's thrusters ignited, propelling him into the fray. He landed in the center of the squad before they could react, his arms snapping out in opposite directions. Twin kinetic pulses detonated from his palms. 2 soldiers were sent flying, their armor crumpling from the sheer force. The others tried to regroup, but Jace wasn't done. The armor morphed around his right arm, metal plating shifting, expanding. A blade extended from his forearm, sleek, humming with a deadly energy field. The nearest soldier barely had time to scream before Jace's blade sliced clean through his rifle, severing it in 2. A swift kick sent him sprawling. Another lunged from behind. Jace spun, his left gauntlet shifting into a gravity manipulator. He crushed the air around the soldier. Armor buckled. Bones snapped. The man collapsed, unmoving. The remaining soldiers hesitated. They were afraid. Vren wasn't. The general merely raised a hand. His troops immediately fell back, forming a defensive perimeter. Jace panted, adrenaline surging through his veins. They are up to something. Then he saw it. A dark shape descending from the sky, a heavy artillery drone, its barrel humming with a building charge. "Kira, tell me you're close," he shouted into his comm. Static. Then, "I'm coming in hot. Hold on." Jace didn't have time to hold on. The artillery drone fired. A torrential blast of energy roared toward him, too fast to dodge. Jace threw up his arms, bracing for impact. The armor reacted. A barrier erupted around him, absorbing the brunt of the blast. But the sheer force sent him flying, smashing into a ventilation unit. His vision blurred, pain lancing through his ribs. Damn it. He forced himself to his feet, blinking rapidly. Vren was approaching. His boots clanked against the rooftop, slow, deliberate, confident. Jace forced a smirk. "If you wanted to talk, you could have just sent an invitation." Vren chuckled. "You misunderstand, Mr. Carter. I'm not here for you." He gestured toward the armor. "I'm here for that." Jace felt the suit's presence surge in his mind, its instincts aligning with his own. It would rather destroy itself than be taken by Vren. Jace rolled his shoulders. "Good. We're on the same page." "Yeah, well, I think it likes me better." Vren's expression darkened. "Then I'll rip it from your corpse." His gauntlet glowed. And suddenly, Jace felt like his lungs were being crushed. A pulse of energy slammed into him, lifting him off his feet. He choked, his limbs locking up. "What the hell?" The armor struggled, its systems glitching, overwhelmed. Vren's voice was calm, amused. "Did you think you were special?" He stepped closer. "That armor doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the strongest. And I am the strongest." Jace couldn't move. His body was pinned by some invisible force field, his vision darkening as the pressure increased. Vren smirked. "Say good night, Mr. Carter." Then something slammed into the rooftop. A ship. Kira's ship. The force of its entry thrusters shattered the rooftop, sending debris flying. The shockwave broke Vren's hold on Jace, and he gasped for air, dropping to his knees. "Get in." Kira's voice blasted through the comms. Jace didn't need to be told twice. He pushed off the ground, sprinting toward the open ramp of Kira's ship. Plasma bolts streaked past him, but the armor morphed, deploying an energy shield to deflect the shots. Vren roared in frustration. Jace leapt, his body twisting midair, and landed hard on the ship's ramp. The moment he was inside, Kira hit the thrusters. The ship rocketed into the sky, leaving the rooftop behind. Jace slumped against the wall, breathing hard. Then he heard Kira's voice. "Jace, what the hell did you steal?" Jace exhaled, staring down at his armored hands. Then he looked out the viewport, at the fleet of warships now emerging from hyperspace, chasing them. His stomach dropped. Something I shouldn't have. Jace had been in bad situations before, trapped inside collapsing space wrecks, pursued by bounty hunters, even once stranded on a dying moon with nothing but a pocket knife and a broken comm. This was worse. The Zenith Dominion fleet descended upon them like a swarm of hungry beasts, warships locking into attack formation, their heavy cannons charging. Their lead cruiser, a behemoth of black steel, hunched over the others like a predator ready to strike. Inside Kira's ship, alarms blared. The cockpit was a storm of flashing red lights and rapid-fire warnings. "I swear to God, Jace, one time, I need you to go one time without stealing something that makes us public enemy number one," Kira shouted, her hands flying across the controls. Jace, still catching his breath, slammed a fist against the wall. "How was I supposed to know I bonded with an ancient death suit?" Kira shot him a look. "It talks to you, doesn't it?" Jace hesitated. The armor wasn't just a tool. It had thoughts, not words, exactly, but impressions. A presence lurking in his mind, guiding him, making suggestions. And right now, it wanted to fight. Jace shook his head. "No way. We're running." The armor pulsed in protest. Jace ignored it. Kira's ship, the wild card, was fast. Ridiculously fast. But the Zenith Dominion had 100 ships, and right now, they all wanted his head. Kira muttered curses under her breath, flipping switches, adjusting trajectories. "I can get us to light speed, but I need 60 seconds to charge the drive." "We don't have 60 seconds, Jace barked. As if to emphasize the point, the lead cruiser fired. A lance of energy sliced through the void, just missing them as Kira jerked the controls, sending them into a violent barrel roll. Jace slammed into the bulkhead, groaning. "Then buy me time," Kira shouted. Jace growled in frustration, staring down at his armored hands. The armor wanted to fight. And maybe it was right. He turned to Kira. "Open the airlock." Her eyes snapped to him. "What?" Jace clenched his fists, the armor tightening around him. He could feel its powers surging, the endless potential waiting to be unleashed. "Trust me." Kira hesitated. For once, her usual sarcasm was gone. Then, she nodded. She hit the release. The airlock doors slid open, revealing the abyss of space beyond. Jace took a breath. Then he jumped. The moment he left the ship, the armor adapted. Thrusters flared to life along his back and boots, stabilizing him. The vastness of space engulfed him, a battlefield stretching endlessly in every direction. The enemy fleet closed in. Jace grinned. Time to give them a reason to be afraid. The armor's systems aligned, his vision sharpening, every enemy ship marked with targeting overlays. His gauntlets shifted, forming twin plasma launchers. He fired. Twin lances of energy shot through the void, streaking toward the nearest Zenith fighter. Direct hit. The ship detonated, debris scattering. The others reacted immediately, fighters swerving toward him, guns blazing. Jace dove, spinning through space as plasma bolts narrowly missed him. The armor's thrusters gave him unreal maneuverability, twisting him around incoming fire. He slammed into the side of an enemy fighter, gripping its hull. The pilot inside barely had time to react before Jace ripped the cockpit open, tore the man from his seat, and threw him into the void. The fighter was his now. Jace kicked off, shoving the deadweight pilot aside and sliding into the controls. The Zenith fleet was closing in fast. But now, Jace had a ship, and he was taking the fight to them. Inside the wild card, Kira watched in stunned silence as Jace, now piloting a stolen fighter, single-handedly engaged the enemy fleet. "Of all the insane, reckless things you've done, Carter, this one takes the cake." She punched the thruster controls. "Don't die out there. I don't want to have to find another idiot co-pilot." She turned back to the hyperdrive console. "Almost ready. Just a little longer." Jace spiraled through enemy fire, using the stolen fighter's agility to weave through the chaos. The Zenith Dominion's cruisers were closing ranks, preparing to box him in. Good. That's exactly what he wanted. Jace gripped the controls, flipping switches, redirecting power. Then, with a wicked grin, he aimed the fighter directly at the enemy cruiser. Inside his mind, the armor whispered, "Now." Jace ejected. As he launched from the cockpit, the fighter streaked forward, a deadly projectile. The cruiser didn't react fast enough. The stolen fighter slammed into the ship's bridge, an explosion erupting from within. A chain reaction tore through the warship, and within seconds, the entire cruiser split apart in a fireball of destruction. Jace soared through the void, the armor adjusting for velocity. Kira's voice crackled over comms. "Jump drive ready. Get back now." Jace locked onto the wildcard's beacon, thrusters firing at full burn. The remaining Zenith forces scrambled to regroup, but it was too late. Jace hit the ramp, rolling into the ship just as Kira punched the hyperdrive. The wildcard vanished into the void, leaving the enemy fleet behind. Silence. For a long moment, Jace just lay there, staring at the ceiling. Then Kira's face appeared above him, arms crossed. "So, we just pissed off the most powerful military faction in the galaxy." Jace groaned. "Yeah, pretty much. And you bonded with a super weapon that everyone wants to kill you for. That too." She sighed, rubbing her temples. "You realize there's no going back from this, right? We're screwed." Jace sat up, flexing his fingers. The armor hummed around him. Powerful, alive, waiting. He smirked. "Not screwed. Just getting started."